Hey guys, what is up? This is Ed from vinylalbumcovers.com. Welcome back to Slept On. You know what it is. We talk about songs by artists that you may have missed the first go around. And I gotta tell you, I was actually pretty surprised to see that this one kind of got missed. It didn't do very well, and it surprises me. Just like the last one. I mean, Black was upsetting, like all the stuff that happened in that career. But we've got another one that's very upsetting. This surrounds the group UNV, or as they were backronymed, Universal Nubian Voices. So I'll explain. So the group itself formed back in 1991, right? Right? Yes, I have some notes here. I don't pretend to know everything. I grabbed some notes so that I would be as correct as I could be. But they formed in 1991. There were two different groups to begin with. Sean had one, John had the other. And John's group found some success, and John convinced Sean, their brothers, the Powell brothers. He convinced Sean to join him in this other group, and John always liked the name UNV because he was thinking "You envy me." Get it? See what he did there? And so they decided to go with that name, and then they decided they should have slightly loftier principles. John didn't really care so much, based on an interview that I read, but Sean kind of did, and John and Demetrius were kind of on board with it too. So they came up with the acronym Universal Nubian Voices, or Sean did, I should say. And so that's what they went by. In fact, that's the name of the second album they released, but we'll get to that in a second. So they independently put this album together. I don't know what the name of it was. I believe it was called Something's Going On. I think they named the album that at that time. That's kind of what I'm questioning. But anyway, it was released independently as an album, with or without that title. I'm not really sure. But no, my research didn't turn up what the name of it would have been. So I'm assuming it was titled the same way that it was titled later on. But anyway, they sold something like, I think it was a bit over 10,000 copies of that album on their own, which is pretty impressive, really, when you think about it. I mean, this is in the days before the internet, so there was, that wasn't a thing. It's not like, a record company can go to YouTube and look at streams at this point. That wasn't a thing. So they were literally selling these albums independently. And Maverick, i.e. Madonna and Guy Oseary, who ran the label, it caught their attention. And Maverick is basically Warner's. They're an offshoot of Sire and Warner's. Madonna was originally signed to Sire Records back in, I think it was 1983 that she was signed to them. And at any rate, she got to form this label years later called Maverick, and actually turned into an entire entertainment company. She doesn't record for it anymore. I think she's on Rock Nation now. I think it's hard to tell. She's bounced from label to label here lately a bit. It's her prerogative. But at any rate, at this point, she was recording for the label, and it was her label. So anyway. You didn't ask all that, did you? You didn't. I can tell you didn't. Get to the point, Ed. Well, I'm going to, all right? So anyway, they get signed to that label. They get signed to Maverick, and they already had a record ready to go, like an entire album. And so they released Something's Going On just a bit ahead of it, and it did really, really well. I'm going to cheat. It did. This is where research comes in handy, my children. The song got to number 3 on the R&B charts. The ones we care about? Yeah, those. And then it also got to number 29 on the pop charts too. So it crossed over a bit, but it did really well in the R&B charts. And Maverick thought they had a hit on their hands, and so they released the album. And the album did fairly well just on the strength of that single. But then they released this song. You know what? Before I get too upset here, I have an idea, and you'll probably go with me on this one. How about we watch the video? Now, I will tell you, as was the case with the black video, I've actually never seen this video before. I have it queued, but I've never seen it. So if you haven't seen it, you're forgiven. This was like a period, unfortunately, a period in my life where we didn't have, I was living at home and we didn't have cable at this point. So I missed a lot of videos. There's a hole in my knowledge of videos, and it's right about here. So let's go ahead and watch this video. It's straight from the heart, straight from my heart. Shame on you, Ed. Straight from my heart by UNV. So let's get it in 3, 2, 1.
When I close my eyes, all I see are visions of you. Laughter in the air, playing games. That's the way it used to be. But since you've been away from me, baby, I can't get you off my mind. So I'm sending you a rose straight from my heart, my love. Ooh, I'm sending you a rose straight from my heart.
Mm, mm, mm. Props to old school jams, by the way. I'll link to this video in the description so you can see where it came from. It's in excellent condition and it shouldn't be by all rights. So major props to Old School Jams, the YouTube channel, for putting this up so we could watch it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Um, as for the song itself, so let me hand out some flowers here. You know how I do. Um, it was written by the group. All the members of the group wrote it. Demetrius Pete, John Clay, John and Sean Powell. They all wrote it together. Um, John, who's the high voice in the group, the first, well, not the high voice in the group, but in this particular instance, he's one of them. He is the highest voice in the group. Ed, get on with it, Ed. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to be particular so you know who's who. Um, but he was the one in the second verse. Um, that was John. John arranged the tune. Um, he may have done the vocal arrangement, but I think in the credits it lists all of them doing it. That's possible. I wasn't there. But yeah, but John did the rhythm arrangement, and I guess they all arranged it together. John played the grand piano. That's a real piano. That's not fake. You can tell when you listen to it. The decay sounds like a real, actual grand piano. So it is. Um, and then the strings, and I'm assuming the other things that were synclavier based, like the fake string bass. That was all done by John Penn II. John Penn worked heavily on this record. So John Penn would have done the strings. He's listed specifically as having done strings on the synclavier, and he probably also did the string bass. They probably just didn't list it, but that probably covers everything because I'd know that string bass sound anywhere. That's definitely off a synclavier. So, and the drums are too. I'm pretty sure those drums are synclavier, so he probably did those too. Although I don't know, I wasn't there. That part is me assuming, but it makes sense. It's assumption based on some concrete information. Um, there are so few songs like that are truly effective emotionally. Um, if you took the vocals away from that song, it still stands up. I think it does, because it's just absolutely gorgeous. I mean, Something's Going On is two chords the entire time. That's really all it is. And there's nothing wrong with that. It works really well. I love that song. That song is a forever jam because of the way that they vary the melody. That's what makes it work. It makes you think that it's more than it is, but it's actually a very simple song in terms of chord structure. There's only two chords. There's literally just two of them. Straight From My Heart has like 5 million. It's more than two chords, quite a bit more. And I mean, the playing is just beautiful. It's just relentlessly melodic and really pretty. And even if you take the melody off of it and take the voices away, I'd probably still listen to it that way. That's how pretty I think it is. And it's very moving. And when you put the lyric in and the melody in on top of it, it just makes it even that much more irresistible. So you would listen to a song like that, I'm assuming, based on how pretty it is and how effective it is. I mean, I was listening to it, I was feeling it, hopefully you were too. But you would think that a song like that would do fairly well. And if you thought that, you would be forgiven for thinking that. I would understand it. In fact, I remember thinking about like things I could do for Slept On, and I still have a list that's as long as my arm to get to. And the problem is I keep adding to it. And this was something that was added to it. Because I looked, and I don't remember why I looked, but I looked, I know why I looked. I remember now because I was going to do a different song of theirs. And I looked, and that song is very good too. It's So In Love With You, if you're curious. I wondered how that one did. It didn't do well at all. But then I looked and I just assumed, based on the frequency at which I was hearing it here in DC, I figured Straight From My Heart had done quite well. It didn't really. I was really, really shocked and blown away. So, okay, so we said earlier that Something's Going On peaked at number 3 on the R&B charts and number 29 on the pop charts. We said this. Oh, look, there it is. I was trying to figure out where it was, but there it is. Straight From My Heart peaked at number 36 on the R&B charts. 36. That's it. You're telling me that a song that is that pretty peaked at number 36. That's the best you can do, Maverick. 36. Come on. Really? Like, that blew me away. And I only saw that a couple days ago. Like, how though? Like, it's weird to me. So, okay, so they released Close Tonight off that record, and that did quite a bit worse. Maverick just weren't pushing at this point. I remember that quite clearly. So they got 3 singles off the album. One of them does well. It basically a one-hit wonder is what UNV became. Then Maverick went, oh no, we have a problem here. You're not what we thought you were. We need to bolster sales here. We got to save your career. And then they threw him in the studio with David Foster, who produced and co-wrote So In Love With You. And then Brian McKnight, who co-wrote and produced What's It Like, and et cetera, et cetera. They threw them in the studio with a bunch of big-name producers. And UNV never wanted that. And they didn't need it. I mean, if you check out that first album, it's self-contained, and oh, by the way, it's really good. Like, Hold On is a great song. To Be or Not To Be is cool. UNV Thing is fun. Like, there's some good stuff on the record. No One Compares to You is fun. Like, it's a good record. It's a really good record. And to be clear, like, I understand why the record as a whole didn't take off. I mean, this was at a period where there were a lot of groups like this, like a lot of them. You know, we on this very channel, we have a video featuring, for example, I know I keep bringing them up, but that was one of the groups. Front Page was another one. There was, and then there was obviously, you know, there was Low Key, there was Boys to Men, there was Jodeci. I mean, there was Shy. It's like every record label had to have their Boys to Men. And I guess Maverick thought they'd found theirs. But they weren't willing to put the work in. Or maybe not necessarily not willing to put the work in, but it doesn't look like they did based on what was happening here. I mean, there should be, I don't know everything, but I mean, you heard that song, right? Like, that should have done something. It should have been far bigger than it was. The video is very nice. You know, it looks good. It's well done. How do you blow that? And so the story continues that they get them in the studio with these incredibly high-priced producers and spend some money on the record. And UNV did not want this. They were extremely opposed to having their workflow disrupted and, you know, for getting other people involved. They didn't want to do that, but they were forced to do it. Their feet were held to the fire. They really had no choice. So they go in and they make this record, and it peaks at number 39 on the R&B charts, where Something's Going On had peaked at number 7. If You Care, the top 200 charts, 59 for Something's Going On, and 161 for Universal Nubian Voices. The first single, So In Love, peaks at number 65 on the pop charts, number 49 on the R&B charts. That makes perfect sense. It's not an R&B song, it's a pop song. not pop as in up, not pop dance or anything like that, but it's a pop ballad with, pop production values. It's a good song, but it was very much cut to template. It was made the way David Foster was making records at that point. So it's like there's not really that much difference between it and For You I Will, and which Monica did, and Have You Ever by Brandy, and yeah, it's just kind of cut to template. So they all kind of sound alike. They all have tremendous similarity. The only real difference here between any of those songs and So in Love with You is that it did have a real string section, courtesy of Bill Ross, who wrote it and then ended up with writing credit. And Linda Thompson Jenner wrote the lyrics, his wife at the time, David's wife at the time. But at any rate, the song does nothing, and they were done. UNV was thoroughly frustrated, and they ended up leaving the label. And some other things happened after that. John is still making music on his own. He has social media presences, but the rest of the group doesn't exist anymore. They did cut another record some years later in 2008 on their own. It didn't really do much of anything. And it's such a shame. I mean, there's such a tremendous amount of talent there, and that's the only group that I can think of that type that was completely self-contained. But they just could not succeed. And it's, I noticed it at the time. Well, not with Straight From My Heart. I didn't notice it, but when I noticed it with So in Love with You. If you get the album, they do like that kind of Something's Going On eyes, So in Love with You, and it's fire. I'm just saying, like, that's the way to listen to that song. But we're not here about that song. We're here about Straight From My Heart, and about the fact that somehow that song did not do well. I don't know how. How? Just I don't get it. This probably just comes down to mismanagement again. Here we are again with this age-old thing that happens in the record industry. And you have to wonder if things would have been different if they would have signed to a different record label, because I don't think Maverick Records had any other R&B acts. I'm going to look and see if they did here. I'm cheating, but I'm looking. Because Maverick isn't really a thing anymore. It died as of 2009. So I'm looking here to see. Obviously, they had your Alanis Morissette, and although they did have Mr. Dalvin, I forgot about that. That didn't last very long. I'm looking to see if there's anything else here that sticks out. That's R&B related anyway. Nope. They had one R&B act. They had just one R&B act, and it was UNV. So how on earth a kit were they supposed to know what to do with that? It's generally not a good idea to be the only R&B act signed to a record label, because how are they supposed to know what to do? Maverick clearly just did not know what to do. They were lost at sea, and UNV paid for it, on top of the fact that there were a lot of other R&B groups at that point, and it was very difficult to cut through the noise. I'm sure it was a combination of those two things, but whatever, it's a crying shame, because that song is fire. Like, that should have been the next hit single, and it wasn't. And it got slept on. So hopefully you enjoyed listening to that song. That's the most important thing on these videos. Hopefully you're enjoying the songs. Never mind me. I'm just trying to bring attention to and hand flowers out for the songs themselves. Hopefully you enjoyed the song and the video. That was cool. I hadn't seen that before. I like the video. But anyway, thank you very much for watching this video. I appreciate that. If you liked it, tell me that you did hit the like button at the bottom. Subscribe to the channel. You'll see a thing at the end anyway, but I might as well say it, right? I have a very exciting thing coming up soon. I've been working on it for a while, and it will surface very, very soon, and it absolutely will involve requesting for certain Slept On episodes, or requesting topics that we do for anything. So I'm going to get all that covered. I know I'm slower on it than you would like, and I don't mean to be, but I'm going to get that taken care of, because there's a reason that it's taking the time that it's taking. But anyway, again, as I say often, I am truly, truly humbled that you that you look at my videos, my little videos in my tiny little corner of the internet. I really do appreciate it. You know what? We have to check the subscriber count now because I'm just curious. I have to see what's happening here. Let's see. What are we seeing here? Let's see. I think if I go to the manage, I never remember how to do this. There we go. Okay. So as of now, as of right this second, we have 329 subscribers, my children. That is where we are. On the road to 1,000 kids, forward march and all that. But 329 subscribers, that's madness. Absolutely madness. Thank you so much. I know I always do this at the end of videos, but darn it, I mean to do it. Thank you. I really do appreciate it. I appreciate the love and the support that the channel is getting, and I'm going to keep putting out content, and hopefully you'll keep watching it. And thank you so much for watching up to this point. Again, the link to Old School will be placed in the description, so you can watch the video on its own, because it's really well rendered and preserved, and so this individual deserves the credit for that. We will see each other on the next video. I'm trying to figure out how to close this out and I can't do it. But anyway, until we see each other on the next video, please keep listening to great music.